where the link is then public and anybody can just grab it. If you need to review any parts of the session, it'll be there. All right, we are live. This is Gimbalabs Open Spaces. It's the 19th of September, 2024. We've got a crew of new faces, old faces, and people we haven't seen in a while, like Adriano are here. So really good to be together. Different crew every time. Let's jump right in. What we do on Thursdays is we make plans for what kind of work we're going to be doing. And so I'm going to share on my screen a Notion board. Let me get here. Yep. Okay. And anybody who has access to this is able to update it. We can talk later about how to get access to this board. But for now, anybody can view the board right here. I'm going to share the public link. This allows anybody just to review our notes that are on my screen right now. But if you want editing access, we'll have to set you up with that. But let's just talk about what we see on this board. This is Notion. Notion helps us organize projects. And when we organize the projects, we place them into several different categories. You can see them here: proposal, planning, backlog, community review and consent, and stuff that's in progress. Here's our list of in progress work. A lot of these, we might have to review the dates at some point. So if we ever run out of proposals to discuss, we should do that. But what's really nice is that every one of these projects has an owner, and there's a lot happening on all of these right now. I think we should think about how we review this list, but we're really starting to get our feet under us right now with how we get projects onto that list. So let's pin this for just a moment. And today we're really going to focus on the consent process. The last thing that has to go, the last stage a proposal has to go through to become a project that's in progress is community review and consent. And that's the primary purpose of these Thursday meetings, is to look at proposals for projects that any of us have brought to the table and decide if they are safe enough to move forward with. We have a really nice list right here. Newman's been working on fund proposal presentations for the last few weeks. Do you have updates on that one today?
I could take a minute or two and update. Yep.
So we can do a quick update there. Dandelion-lite, Martin's been working on this one, and I think this will be our primary focus today. Alex has a new one, IMBO contribution ladder. I don't think we're going to get to this in the next 20 minutes, Alex, but I'll leave it here just in case you're around when we get down here. And does anybody know who wrote this one? Introduce category backlog. Is anybody currently working on that one?
I do.
Okay. So this one's Alex as well.
Yeah,
That's
I
cool.
mean, it's like it's for everyone
Yeah.
and not
These
necessarily.
both sound necessary. So let's see. After Dandelion-lite, if you're still here, let's jump straight into these. If not, they'll still be here next time.
Yeah.
Okay. And it sounds like anything having to do with backlog, that's exciting because it might give us a way to talk about our work in progress. So that's
Yeah,
really good.
exactly.
And then I have one around financial accounting up here. So what's this? These are drafts of proposals. And we have a space here that anybody can come together and start to build a proposal. And we saw last week a really good example of how it works when people collaborate at this stage, writing the proposal itself. We saw last week that it didn't take long to get consent for the Playground Season 4 proposal, because a lot of thought went into it before we got to this step. So that was awesome. We're going to continue to pursue that as the ideal state, but we recognize that we're practicing these processes right now. So sometimes if we have to use this time to refine these proposals a bit, that's okay. And we're getting better at this all the time. So when I look at this list, I drafted this one, but I didn't put my name on it. And if there's time at the end, I would love to bring this one to the group today, because we're trying to just get the Gimbalabs financial house in order for 2024. Is there anything else on this proposal list that owners would like to add to the agenda?
Say that again?
Anything else on this list of proposals that the authors of these proposals would like to place on the agenda down here? I need a better way to say that.
Well, no, see, like any of the owners there, like their listed owner. See, Alex and I have been working on a hackathon with Piotr, and I don't think that we've got updates there. We're sort of sussing it out. Yep, that's an update there.
Beautiful. Yeah,
If
and that's
you're interested in a hackathon, me and Alex and Piotr are working on that if you have experience and stuff. And that's going to go for pretty much all of these. If you see an owner and you're interested in the projects, please feel free to reach out. You could do it here on the Notion board or on Discord.
Yeah, that's a perfect note. Yep. And there's no like deadline here. It's really okay if a proposal stays here for as long as it takes to get it ready. And that's one of the beautiful features of this is sometimes this will serve as a bit of a backlog, and eventually one by one, the ones that we need to talk about will rise to the top. Scholarship. Yeah, is there a name on this one? That looks very early notes here. Okay. Cool.
That feels like something I wrote. Look, I misspelled scaffold. Yeah, I feel like I did this one. Maybe in some.
Live
I'll put my name on it.
coding. And this one is passed. This was a proposal for just some kind of interim summer live coding. Those dates are gone. I'm going to move this one to, I don't know whether it was done or canceled. We had some live coding. We'll just make it done. All right. Good. And I do have one more proposal that I would live draft. I didn't have time to write it up. I'll mention that at the end if there's time. But it feels like this is a pretty good agenda. We've got 75 minutes to go through up to 5 proposals if there's time. If we have a little time at the end, I've got one more thing to bring to the group. But is this okay if we go through things in this order?
Yeah, that'd be great. In order to do like the full thing, it takes me it takes me 10 minutes to read it. I don't want to, but I will give I'll just set the timer for 2 minutes and see how far I get.
And do you want to share screen? Or
So,
are you happy with me scrolling through?
yeah, I'm happy with you because I'm just gonna very briefly sort of go through it. Basically, what we do here and what we're talking about is going through a proposal presentation process. And I think that should be funded, incentivized, because it does take, in order to get quality things, it does take time. I'll just read the short driver. In order to bring more proposals and provide an incentive to contribute to Gimbalabs, individuals that prepare and present proposals here in this open space, that they can request and receive ADA from a tranche or a treasury that was established in our Fund 12 proposal. That treasury is 30,000 ADA. And for instance, Martin, has drafted a proposal and he's going to present it, and James is going to run the consent process on it. And it would be cool if those guys got a little extra incentive or highlight or respect or acknowledgement that they did this. There's a couple of outcomes that this would provide evidence of the work that we're doing. That these proposals come really robust and that they're documentation. It's also a simple and meaningful way to contribute to Gimbalabs. Like that it's a great onboarding. It would become kind of an onboarding thing. And it's a practical and meaningful place to practice these skills of open decentralized ecosystems, meaning writing proposals and conducting that process. And so therefore, I think, so here's my ask. there are a lot of questions on this, like, how much should we set aside? How much should it be compensated? I'm still working through those, and we'll handle in the consent process. But it would be good if you're interested in this, to you can make comments on these questions or write to me directly. But we will go through this in the consent process, and so I'm hoping that we're going to handle this in the next few weeks. Again, that's just, it'll happen in the appropriate time, but I would love more proposals, and I'd love to see, more incentive in this way, and us all practicing. So thank you. 2
Anybody have any
minutes, 38
questions?
seconds.
Not bad, not bad. Anybody have questions for
That's pretty
Newman
good.
at this stage? Cool. I can't remember. So obviously these pages are public for anyone to view. I think if you log in with Notion but are not a member of the Gimbalabs organization, you can comment, but I'm not sure about that. So that's something to check. And if you would like to have a Notion account on this organization, just reach out. And we've been getting people set up one by one with that. Once you have that, one of the nice things about being part of the org is you can participate right here. So you could write a line to Newman. It's just like Discord. I could say at Newman, I'd like to meet about this, right? And then he would get notified about that, and then you can keep the conversation going right here. But also, as this goes along, Newman's been a real leader in starting to create spaces kind of informally in the Gimbalabs Discord where we refine proposals together. So thanks for that. And these questions feel like another good place to be doing that.
Yeah.
Cool, cool. Thanks. All right, I'm going to hand it off to our game changer team. Guys, do you want me to keep sharing screen, or would you like to share?
I can share. Maybe easier with scrolling. But
Great. And while you're getting that set up, Martin, would you say that the goal today is to go through the consent process because this proposal is ready? Or do you think we're in the refinement stage where we should be filling out some details together?
I think we're in refinement. I just want to get some feedback. I made a rough draft, and yeah, I want to just see how this fits into the organization and what people think about doing this. So yeah, feedback is important, I think.
Good deal. Yeah, good. So take us through what we've got so far. This is a draft of a proposal, and we're going through a feedback process.
You can see my screen here.
Yep, looks great. We got a dandelion icon.
Perfect.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, I saw that one. Uh, I don't know if many people are familiar with Dandelion. Dandelion has been a project running a long time inside the Gimbalabs organization. And from there, Roberto Morano has been running that for a long time by himself. And there has been attempts to run multiple servers running this Dandelion. And from this, with the Game Changer team, mainly Adriano and me, we have been refining it to make it easier to set up, because we want to really make something which is very easy to distribute, even maybe for non-developers. So that is why we're doing this proposal. I will start with the primary driver. To run a Cardano DApp other than the Cardano node, several other services are essential. Dandelion-lite intends to make running these services effortless, setting up local development environment or production servers. Cardano nodes are decentralized, and here we want to fill a huge gap in this global system. Essential services need to be decentralized. With Dandelion-lite, we can do this. So that's primary driver is what is the current situation. I already talked a little bit about this. And the impact that we want to have is to truly scale Cardano and educate new developers. The barrier to entry needs to be as low as possible. Then Dandelion-lite will empower everybody to run indexers and query services, demystifying the system and reduce dependencies on third parties, allowing everybody to scale the system, creating exponential growth. I think that's why we did this Dandelion-lite from the game changer side, using Docker Compose to make it much simpler to set up. And we kept it closed source for to get funding from Fund 12 in Catalyst, but we nearly missed it. We fell into the second round, and there we lost it on, I don't know, 1,000 ADA or something. It was crazy. So, but yeah, I think this system fits better into the Gimbalabs organization than to Game Changer, because then it looks like, which is not the intention, that it's something that only a wallet needs, but everybody needs these essential services. And yeah, they need to be scaled, and everybody has different requirements, and I think it doesn't fit well with the current solutions we have, coils and all the other things. Everybody needs some tweaks. So you need like a toolbox, which is like what Dandelion has, but the toolbox needs to be able to translate to other people to use it.
Right.
And we tried with the system which Roberto has, but he is like high-level DevOps guy with Kubernetes, and it's kind of, we tried, but we always seems to fail with it. So it's just the barrier to entry was just a little too high for us, or for maybe also for most people.
Yeah.
So that's what is where the light is coming from. And yeah, I think it's very interesting because we also have a test net which you can run on your local system, and that way you can run GraphQL, a new one, without any data in the node, but you don't really need that to run scripts. You can start it in 20 seconds. So you can very quickly try something, destroy it, and then start over. I think that's very important for learning, that you can fail quickly. And I have the feeling that with testnet that sometimes that doesn't work. So there's something, we want to really make development easy, and also know how these services which you need, which are not on chain, how these work, and that you can run that yourself and maybe improve it. So you can get into that. So yeah, I think that's my pitch.
I see Steve's hand.
Yeah, Martin, what state is it in right now? I mean, like I've got this brand new Linux computer, and I overestimated my ability to just do anything I wanted to on it. So that's I'm at that stage where every time I try to do something I think should be simple, and it gets complicated. And so that's I had intended to already have a Cardano node installed and fucking around with that, and I haven't done it yet just because this stupid Linux is more than my tiny brain can handle. But what you're I mean, is it ready? What you have, could I download that now? Is it?
Yeah, we have the Dandelion Dev, and we have Dandelion-lite also, but also Dandelion-lite Dev, and that is not open yet for people.
Okay.
I think it's very hard to add people from the Gimbalabs. It's not really, our intention is not to have it closed, but it was just to have some barrier for the Catalyst things. So you could try it.
Yeah.
And at the moment, Adriano with the Game Changer wallet is using it. So it is in production.
So it's just you and Adriano that have been trying it out and seeing how it runs.
Yeah, but I think it's important that a system like this is useful for everybody because it's very generic.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I mean,
I'm just wondering when you want somebody else to play with it.
Yeah, I think so.
that should be an outcome of this proposal, right? And can I make sure I'm saying this right? So Game Changer is an example of an application that's using a toolbox that includes some services that are part of Dandelion. And what we're talking about here is opening up the toolbox so that other people can use it. Is that a good way to say it? And that way we're not looking closely at Game Changer, but we're decoupling those two things. We're saying, here's the toolbox, let's make sure other folks can use this as well. Adriano, take us from there.
Okay, thanks. So, well, great intro from from Martin. I just want to add some tiny clarifications. Adding the great question that Steve was asking. Yeah, it's on production. We switched from Docker to Podman to increase security to run without root permissions. We are all the time adding, trying to maintain this monster that Dandelion is historically, because all the APIs it has, it's like I like to say, like a tiny monster or a Frankenstein in that regard. Roberto has been doing magic, because magic he has been doing all these 3 years. But it was about time we find out ways to somehow help him to maintain, or to at least offer an alternative to help him keep uptimes, and not just for Game Changer. This is a very important clarification. As you said, James, it's not for Game Changer, but whatever we are doing is of course useful for a lot of people. So the idea is to open this as soon as possible, and the idea is to maintain it together. Another clarification that is good to to tell is that there is no central gateway or load balancer, if I can say, thought for this as part of the Lite project. The idea is to first let everyone deploy their own nodes. Currently, for example, you can plug one of these, all of these APIs that you can have with Dandelion-lite to Game Changer, for example, to make it work with your own node. But the thing is, the idea is first to deploy your own, and the idea is to, of course, if you guys and Roberto wants to try to orchestrate like a group of nodes to become the main Dandelion network, or group of nodes behind the main load balancer, that can be a thing. We have been talking a lot to Roberto regarding this. So this is where this could, this can be the north. There are, I cannot promise this, but there are chances that we can add a lot of more nodes to this network. The idea, I don't want to make it this very long, but basically there is a tiny shift on the approach regarding each node, that you can configure like a manifest file. It's a JSON file, very simple JSON file, that allows you to clarify if you want to become part of another group of nodes. So that way, it's kind of a more decentralized relationship between your node and the others, because you can say, okay, I want to form part of this, and that group of nodes. And for example, this can be used for some services like Game Changer or not. Or maybe by doing that, you're like, okay, we're choosing to share our nodes to another kind of network. Just telling you all this just in case it can have.
This is good background, and I'm pretty certain this might raise some long-running questions for folks. And Martin, I just started taking some notes below section 4, if you scroll down the proposal. So we're getting into the details here, which is why we're here today. Oh, and those didn't live update for you, huh?
Yeah, hit the refresh, that might work.
Let's see. I hope my internet's good enough to push these changes.
Yo.
So I just added
Yeah,
this
there it is.
in scope and out scope, and let's just confirm outside of scope is this vision of like a global Dandelion single endpoint running that comes from the right load balancer that allows anybody to support the network anytime, right? We can say very clearly that's outside of scope. And I like that because that's always been something that's been hard to explain about Dandelion. When people ask what it is, we tell them about the community service and they stop listening, right? We're like, we're providing this community service for free so people can use it. But then we end up at this place of never getting to the conversations about that global network. So very specifically calling that out of scope, but acknowledging, Adriano, that you already recognize if we get more people running these Dandelion-lite nodes, it will open up a greater potential in the future that we do get to the point of that load balancer, right? But we're not going to worry about that for now. And I threw education on here because I heard Martin saying that. Would you say what else is in scope, or is there anything else we should specifically name as outside of scope?
Not that I can think of, but there's many details of which services you want to run.
Right.
But I'm not sure everybody is aware of what is available. But I think that's kind of nice of what this provides. You can see all the origin of where all these services are coming from. In the Docker Compose, you can see just, oh, this is where GraphQL is coming from, or this is where Coils is coming from.
So GraphQL and Koios are on that list of included services.
Yeah.
And I see Newman's here. Newman, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, looking at the proposal, one of the things that I looked through is in that what is it? It's impact timeline. I definitely want to ask about the timeline, but also the resources required and what exactly, or can you rephrase what you're asking of us, the community? Because this obviously is something that's really in the scope of our community, but what is this proposal in as short as possible way? Like, what is it asking for?
Yeah. As a first thing, I want to do the Fund 13 and try to get into developers ecosystem for 200,000 K ADA. And that would be nice to have like a treasury to put here. And yeah, the idea is to run it from Gimbalabs to give it a better starting point than from a wallet provider. So I think if everybody is able to add their own thing from the Gimbalabs side, I think, yeah, the Dandelion-lite needs to go back to where it came from. But yeah, this is our approach, and I think that would be nice if we could fund this with Catalyst. But other than that, I think everybody is. You have the Cardano node. Everybody wants to run Cardano nodes, but somehow nobody wants to run the backend services, which I think is a little strange because they're both interesting and useful. There's also a timeline in here for maybe making this access tokenized, maybe getting some funds through that way. And I would like if you have the Linux kernel, there's a lot of people who don't get paid, but are interested in this back-end stuff, for example. So if there's a common place where everybody can add their little thing because, oh, I needed this and I just needed to make this change, and it's good for everybody. And before we started also with Dandelion-lite because GraphQL was basically not really good maintained. It had been for 1.5 years, not any patches. So it was running behind, running on a very old node, but now it's maintained by the Cardano Foundation, so that changed a lot. So yeah, it has better maintenance, but it's nice to fit that all into a unified system, because you need other stuff next to GraphQL as well.
Can you light that one up for us? This idea of everyone being able to add the piece they need. Just to give everybody an example, what would you point to?
So add that to the resources required.
So for
Or-
example, if I have an indexer, if I build a custom indexer for my app, is that an example of what we want to enable people to add to the Dandelion-lite suite, or is that a different scope?
I think that could be very interesting. Yes. I wouldn't say it would be nice if it's just some place where you have like a toolbox. Yeah. I think that will be, maybe there's next to GraphQL, we had our own ideas for running SQL directly with the game changer, but that's something for the future. But that's something that adds functionality, because GraphQL can be difficult to optimize because it does everything automatically. But if you have a query which does 1,000 joins with a lot of promises in JavaScript, it can take forever. So yeah, then your GraphQL is very easy to write, but not able to run it in production because it's not cost effective. So
Adriano, what do
we're
you
working
think?
on those systems, and yeah, it would be added to if Game Changer uses it and it gets usable, it would be added to Dandelion-lite for everybody to use. But yeah, it needs to be its own project. I hope we can get Catalyst funding, but yeah, it needs to be sustainable to run servers.
Correct.
And the
So
plan
when it,
is yeah, something which maybe we want to discuss here. What would people find acceptable?
Adriano, what do
Time
you
for a
think?
round?
Let's keep going with open questions. I don't think we're at the point of having a round to respond to.
Okay.
Yeah. But I see Adriano and Steve's hands, and yeah, anybody else who has questions, jump in. Adriano, what do you think?
Okay, I agree, but we are discussing here adding new APIs or indexers, and the possibility of monetizing, incentivizing these efforts, because it's an effort to maintain these beasts. The crucial thing I would ask as the creators of this with Martin, I think that I think we may agree on this principle of freedom of choice behind the project, like keeping things universal as possible to or flexible as possible to allow customize the APIs we need, maybe discard the others we don't need, and things as just you categorized as optionals, like the balance, like the load balancer, or even the kind of monetization or incentives we want to apply on the project. I would strongly suggest those to be options. These if you we don't have time right now, but I've shared on the chat a working node, Dandelion node. If you check the manifest, you will see a first approach of manifesting the intentions of each node. By doing those basic actions, you can then apply a second or third layer of load balancers or incentives or whatever. Regarding game changer, this is very short. I don't want to get too deep into this, but with game changer, we historically we have been using Dandelion 3 years now, right? This technology, and we want to contribute back. We imagine charging people with a wallet to consume APIs. To consume the APIs the wallet consume, right? It's a business model that is not always possible, but someone has to pay. That's law. That's very clear. But how? How can this be achieved? On our case, we are working on social or community-based incentives, adding other optional incentives that you can add as separate services. But the idea is that instead of charging for the consumption of each each request as on every service, there are some other alternative ways to monetize or to incentivize. But this is why, as maintainers or maybe creators of this idea, we didn't enforce monetization right on the code or on the base code of this beast, because we believe on this idea of freedom of maybe letting client side to choose how to incentivize their own nodes, because without backends, client side is kaput, right? So it's a win-win. Also, if client side start thinking more on incentivizing on many ways their own backends. Just that.
That's a really good summary that gets us up to speed. And so for anybody who's ever wondered, like, what's the status of Dandelion? The status is that the free community service has been running for years. Roberto's been paying for it out of his pocket. He got a job at Cardano Foundation because every time we tried to get the incentive model right, we never got there. But at the same time, it's a bit of a trap because we were never able to progress the incentivization and payment parts of the story because we never told the first part of the story good enough, right? So Adriano just shared for us why he thinks building those incentive models, building in the payment rails, all of that should be out of scope. And I just want to wholeheartedly agree with that. Based on my 4 years of experience trying to make Dandelion viable, I've learned that none of those things can possibly be in scope until more people understand what a Dandelion node itself is. And so for me, I think that's the real power of this proposal. Let's push outside of the scope everything that has blocked us historically about this. And let's finally, we've never really tried before to do just the first step right. Get more people to run Dandelion and understand what it is. Okay. So Martin, you might have to refresh again, but can you go back to the proposal page? I think we're making progress on the details part. This is still not done, but hopefully you guys have some raw material to take back with you as we flesh out what the scope is, right? And change this sentence right here. Make it easier for anyone to run their own Dandelion-lite node. Is that the idea, or would you say it a different way? I'm under heading number 4, where it says in scope, and the first bullet point under the words in scope. Yeah, what do you think about that sentence right there?
Yeah, that's very much what our intentions is. And I must say, It has a graphical interface,
Mm-hmm.
command line graphical interface.
Mhm.
And yeah, running that would make it, yeah, it's very, it does the most things. I mean, it's still on beta stage. You would say people can run into tiny issues, but basically it just runs with one command, really.
So like on the education side, there's the 2 bullet points that are already there, right? We want people to just know what the services are in the first place, be able to use them. We also want people to be able to run their own node. And then I just added one for what you just said, maybe refresh again, but we can teach people to use the command line GUI.
Yeah, and I like this in the education part. It would be nice to, just like you run spaces to educate people, we have also spaces to educate people to run Dandelion.
Yeah. And then I
Nice.
think server costs are in scope.
Yes. If we want to run more, yeah, it would be nice to have just the basics running.
Yep. And Newman added documentation, exactly. And those can be the same subheading or separate, we can decide, but education and documentation for all these things. Nelson, what do you think?
Yeah, I was just going to go over your last conversations, but yeah, I'm thinking, what is the proposal like? What do you imagine the proposal entails? Uh, okay, the education part is there, and we're saying that we want to maintain a live server, at least one or more. Um, so the server costs, and then what would be the barriers to keeping the system up to date to the current needs of the ecosystem? For example, updating the services, right? Uh, for the original Dandelion, I think what like everything was handled by Roberto, as far as I can understand. But what he was handling is basically maintaining. That means keeping all the services up to date and make sure it works. And then the second thing is keeping the live instances live, basically the server cost. Um, so yeah, uh, what about, yeah, I think the one missing from the 2 points that James last mentioned is like the maintenance, keeping it up to date so that it works within the system.
Can we
Uh,
combine those server costs and maintenance?
I don't think we should. Um, server cost may be like, if we teach someone and we succeed, someone can keep the server like someone, we can delegate the server cost to someone and make sure that
Nice.
it is alive. But there are technical uh, work required to keep the code base or whatever thing up to date so that it is updated to the current era or the current protocol requirements.
yeah, it can be, it's very hard to say at the moment because we have been experiencing a lot of changes. Going into the Conway era was a bit of a chaos, I think. So we were at a point where it was very like, oh, we're done. And then 2 weeks later, Conway came and Adriano spent a lot of time fixing it. So yeah, it can take a lot of time if a lot of things changes. But these projects are also maintained outside of Dandelion. But yeah, it can take, if you have a change in era with a big upgrade in the database, yeah, it can take a couple of weeks to work on it. So, and regarding server cost, I have bought a 2,000 euro server, and I have at my office I have like they're going to install fiber, but I only have the thing sticking out of my front garden there for a long time. It's very frustrating. It takes so long for them to get around to it. And I intend to run it and then see what the electricity cost is. But yeah, I think it's 100 or 200 euros in electricity a month, something like that. That would be what you need to say. I have tried to run it on Google or AWS. It's not cost effective. It will cost you 600 to 700 euros a month.
More.
So, yeah, you have to use something else, maybe. Maybe I'm not a super expert. I run some services on AWS, but yeah, once you really start using those cycles, which these services do, then you really start to pay. So if you have services just to show a web page which doesn't use any CPU, it's very cheap and easy because you don't have to maintain a lot. But if you really start, computing, which this thing does, it's usually not that good. Which I'm surprised because they have so many scale advantages. I would have expected the prices to go down more with time, but prices seem to have been going up. And yeah, I don't think it's very reasonable how these things are priced now. But if I can run it at my office cheaper with solar power, why? I don't know why they exist really, because experts can run it themselves better.
Suffice to say, whatever the server costs are, that's likely where we're really going to need to lean on Catalyst or another Intersect grant. But a big part of this proposal, it sounds like, is getting to the point where we have a viable Fund 13 proposal.
Yes.
And so maybe demonstrating this model, right? We might not have the funding to pay for 30 people to run Dandelion-lite nodes, but maybe we could get at least the first 2 or 3, right? And we could be building the education materials, making sure that I'm looking in the timeline right here, right? That the code is cleaned up, that we build the course for running it, that the dashboards are making sense to people. That's all really exciting. And that kind of that brings us full circle to the grander goal of these sessions, which is to start the flywheel, right? We want to show that this process of getting together, refining a proposal like we're doing right now and getting to work on it can give everybody the clarity they need to be confident about, running with a Fund 13 or an Intersect grant.
So is this proposal here on Notion, is that a proposal for us, for Gimbalabs to make a proposal for Fund 13, or what's this proposal to do?
It's part of it.
It sounds like let's add that to the in scope list. And actually, could you refresh one more time?
Thanks for doing the editing.
Newman's on fire too. Bring in.
Yeah,
notes.
and I love that this is just as a little meta note. It's like this is like the proposal formation style. And look at, we're all sort of helping out, we're writing things in, and then you give you good grist for the mill, like it gives you good source material to understand where we are, and then it helps you clarify it because we're all participating. And so the people that haven't spoken up yet, I would definitely urge you to sort of form an opinion or a question and put it in the chat and really participate, because this is a part of doing this network decentralized effort and work. Like this is what Gimbalabs is. So yeah, we're doing it, in my opinion.
I think so too.
I mean,
one more time.
Isn't this serious enough that you kind of have to make sure, if you're going to do this, you have to make sure you have backup power, right? I apologize for the dog. I mean, backup power is going to be really like key to running this all the time, right? I mean, if you're going to do it.
Well, Not in the same way as a node is, because like Dandelion is like a constellation, and if you fail a query, it doesn't matter.
Right.
If you fail your node block creation time, it's a lot of money.
And this is where we really have to focus on what we can do right away, right? And that's like, Steve, that's a great example of like, my dad used to always say this, like his biggest question about blockchain is what if they turn the power off? I was like, well, yeah, some other things would be wrong then too, right? Like we, of course, at a global scale, would we want every Dandelion node running to have backup power, right? Just in case it goes down. Yes, we do. Can that be our first priority? Needs to be the question right here, because we're not going to fully solve the problem of power security all with this proposal. So we have to choose really carefully, like what's in scope and what's out of scope. Martin, can you do one more refresh? Because this list is starting to look useful here. It looks like we want to. Yep. Sorry.
No, I thought it would automatically update because
I know. Well, it works like Google Docs sometimes. So these bullet points, all of this is potentially in scope, right? Drafting that proposal, making the case to a broader funding pool. The high level goal, making it easier for anybody to run their node. Building out the education and documentation, which has been in the Gimbalabs backlog for 3 years, right? Steve's been talking about getting a Dandelion PBL running, and it's finally starting to come around. And then looking at those server costs, what can we reasonably cover given the resources we have, and how can we build the case toward bigger work? And then code. Okay, Nelson, now I understand. Code-based maintenance, not server maintenance. Good. That last bullet point now says code-based maintenance. So now this is where we can refine this list in the time we have together, but just looking ahead, this meeting is going to wrap up in 30 minutes. And when it does, the responsibility of Martin and Adriano as proposal writers is now to take this rough conversation, right? Newman just called it like the grist for the mill. And Martin, can you scroll down the page just a little bit more? We need to go from these details into section, is it 7 or 8? Yeah, 7 and 8, right? Whatever's in scope needs to align with this timeline. They align pretty well already, but you guys will just make sure that the details match perfectly what's in scope and where does it go on the timeline. And then we need a budget, right? Because the only reason we have a proposal in the first place is because this is how we ask other people for their time or their money, right? If you guys were just going to keep building Dandelion on your own, you wouldn't have to propose. You wouldn't need permission, right? But the real purpose of this proposal is, okay, well, what funding do we need from the Gimbalabs treasury? And what are we going to be asking other people to do? That's your most important next step after this meeting is to flesh out section 8. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So with that in mind, yeah, let's keep refining what's in scope. Nelson, is your hand still up or up again?
I was just going to ask about the code-based maintenance, right? Basically, so the the driver stated like it required huge Kubernetes DevOps skills to run the server. It was complex before. Now it's easier with Docker Compose maybe. The other thing I presume was there was some orchestration happening with Java code. So like my point is, for the code-based maintenance, when protocol change and things break, what are the skill sets required? Like what people will you guys be looking after so that the thing works? And like more, if you need more developers, what would be the skill set you would be looking for?
It's Docker Compose. If you're good with Docker, you can do it. And that's, I think, is very important in, if we do a course PPL, I think it will be very heavy on Docker and then in relation to how you do this in these services.
Mhm.
Oh, I have a question. If we want to do Fund 13 is coming up fast. We need to start writing this, and where would we start writing this?
I think we already started. It's right here.
Yeah.
This is the
But
proposal.
this is the beauty of it. Would anybody here object to Gimbalabs co-authoring a proposal that builds upon some of what we're talking about right here?
Yeah, I love it.
Any objections? I think it's safe to move forward with that. Let's assume that Gimbalabs, the Game Changer team, and Martin, whichever organization you want to represent you, are collaborating on a proposal around Dandelion in Fund 13. We know the category for it. We know that that category has a limit of 200K ADA for a proposal. And now we can start working backwards from there, because writing the proposal after a conversation like this, I always assume it's going to be easier to write that proposal. But that part is secondary to how we're going to justify the proposal and get the word out to the community, right? And so I see a big part of what we're talking about here as, hey, what are some steps that we can be taking immediately so that by the time voting comes around, we already have a live track record of success funded by this Gimbalabs Fund 12 proposal, and we can use some of those Dandelion Intersect funds as well, right? So drawing on those two resources, we can say, here's what we've accomplished so far, and here's why we need further funding to take this, and this next step as laid out in this Catalyst proposal.
I think we were very close, and I think we got support from the foundation as well with Dandelion-lite. I hope we get it this time as well. But yeah, I'm here to. We are so close, so we need to get the word out that everybody can use this, and this will really, improve the ecosystem for Cardano as a whole. That you have the complete solution. Like you can just run a Dandelion node and access Cardano nodes, and then you have access to everything, because I've seen several repositories where you can install Ogmios, and then you need something else, and it doesn't. You have to invest so much time. You need to just like if you do apt-get something, it needs to just do it straight away. I mean, it's just programming. It should be automated. Why is there like? I don't get it. If you have GraphQL, there's a million steps to build GraphQL. Why require somebody to do 20 steps with deep knowledge of this when it could be just in one? Like, we want to make installing all these services one step. And it can, because, yeah, with software, you should be able to do that. So, yeah.
What do you think about the evolving list of intended outcomes now under Section 3? If you refresh again. Oh, sorry. And Adriano, you've been waiting.
Hey, no, guys, very quick thing. I would strongly suggest to prioritize. I mean, what I'm going to say is very obvious, but Once you put your hands on this Frankenstein setup we have historically on Cardano, and I'm not talking about Dandelion. I'm talking about DVSync, like to GraphQL, then maybe a year of no maintenance. Now we have to really thank the guys that are behind all these products because they are doing their best. We can tell that, but it's never enough. There are still things broken. Dandelion, the special queries Dandelion was using are now broken, and I don't have a good response from the DVSync team. They don't want to. I don't know. Maybe it's something wrong from our side, but we need. I mean, every week there are new releases. Every hard fork is a pain. What I would strongly suggest is to allocate the most big portion of whatever funds we can find to whomever wants to help on maintenance and on, of course, easing the developer experience of deploying these monsters. But
Yes.
maintenance should be a priority, and client-side feedback for doing real maintenance, because there is always a bug, there is always something wrong, and you won't know until someone reports it.
Right.
And that's it. Just
Adriano, are you working hand in hand with Martin to flesh out the proposal that's on the screen right now?
I was not really involved, guys, on writing this. It's all mostly Martin. He
Alright.
showed me stuff, but he has the honors. He has been pushing this.
So your advice
I will
to
help.
Martin,
I will help.
yeah, and you're already giving advice, and that's important, right? So advice processes are fundamental to writing proposals. We should always ask experts. And your expert advice is when we write the budget for this proposal, let's make sure that we're really supporting maintainers.
Right.
Yeah. And all of us heard that advice. So when we look at the budget that Martin proposes, next time we look at this together, we can decide whether we think that budget sufficiently supports maintainers as a way of addressing Adriano's advice. Excellent. Martin, do you think you have enough here to take on next steps? And does that list of 5 outcome bullet points look accurate, or would you change any things there?
Inspire, prepare 14, get the word out, very important. Dandelion PPL course. Yeah, I think intended outcome is to create a central point where everybody can gravitate to fix this stuff, because there's a lot of moving parts, just like Adriano said. And yeah, I'm here because Adriano was doing a lot of the work. I was helping, and it's just like everybody's like doing it by themselves. Like we developers like to do that. And what I like about Gimbalabs is people come together here and everybody has their own knowledge. And yeah, I think yeah, efforts get duplicated. So I want to deduplicate efforts and yeah, build knowledge and make sure everybody is coming together in a central place. So it's not that you're not suffering alone on this one.
Less solo suffering.
I love it.
I wish you could see, I can see Newman typing from my screen right here. I wish everybody else could see that, because that's magical. But is it okay if we move on from this for today and spend the last 15 minutes looking at a couple other proposals really quickly? Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or just thoughts, insights for Martin before we move on? Awesome. If we had all day together, I would definitely want to do a round right here, but given the little bit of time we have, we have to make the best use of the little bit of time. And we do have a couple other proposals to touch. Is it okay if I take the screen share back? Alex, are you available? Or are you multitasking?
Yes, I am.
Do you want to share screen or should I run that for you?
I'll be quick. So if you just share your screen and open the sub.
All right, can you guys see mine? Did I steal that appropriately from Martin? I'm scrolling. I'm moving over to, whoops. Moving down the list. We're going to keep this one in the review and consent phase. That was a really nice proposal kind of refinement round, and that's definitely something we can do with our time here. Let's set a review date on Dandelion-lite and make sure to talk about that one again next week. We've already got an end date of trying to get this fund proposal through by the end of September. Backlog. You want to talk about the backlog one, or wasn't there
Oh
another
yeah,
one?
yeah. The other one probably will come back, not as a
All
proposal,
right.
but just as a something else. So yeah, that's pretty simple. There's like we have category in progress, and there's like dates there, and doesn't seem like these dates are respected in any way. So there has to be category just backlog, you know. We wanted to do this, but we couldn't, you know, and we have to be fair about it. We're not making progress. There has to be some sort of criteria. No reports on progress, no updates. I'm sorry, this is not a progress proposal. This is a backlog. This is all that I wanted to say.
Very nice. This really feels like project management or QA. So you're talking about project management and QA. Would there be a budget associated with this proposal to?
It's a governance proposal. It's how we should govern
Okay.
ourselves.
Sorry.
It could be if we had governance structure, there would be a budget, but we are self-governing, so it's you know.
I can see I can see your screen, Alex. And
It's not my screen, it's James'
Can you
screen.
see mine? I just,
Dandelion-lite.
oh, it still says Dandelion?
I see governance proposal introduce
Yeah,
category backlog.
that's it.
Yeah.
Here, let me, oh, it is the right thing. Okay.
Yeah,
How's that look?
thanks. Yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Excellent. And one thing, this is actually a formal term, this concept of a governance proposal. And so, Alex, thanks for using that term. The kind of proposal we were just talking about with Dandelion-lite is a proposal about what we're going to do, right? What is the topic or the content of a project? Whereas a governance proposal asks, how are we going to work together? And so thanks for making that distinction, Alex. This is a proposal about how we work together. And yeah, I agree that we need a backlog. I do think it might be worth writing an actionable proposal together for just how we ensure that this happens, because we need to think about where the time and whose time is going to come from just to make sure this stuff is happening. But I fully agree with the need for this.
Well, maybe we just like, if the proposal, like the review date is passed and there are no updates, then we can kind of move it on. And so that's how.
Right.
Maybe too harsh, I don't know.
Well, no. It's never harsh. Like, we have to look at reality, and because of limited resources of every nature, we are always looking head on at the distance between reality and where we want to be, right? So there's no doubt about that. We never have to apologize for that. Current state is not where we want to be, right? And we have to patiently give ourselves the grace to get there little by little. As an immediate action, how would everybody feel about starting next Thursday's open spaces, not with community review and consent, but by spending a defined amount of time? What if we see what we can do in 20 minutes? reviewing the current list of in-progress proposals, just so we all have a clearer high-level view of that, right? We might not address everything in this document, but at least we'll all have a clearer picture of how we need to evolve our backlogs. What do you think?
So which ones would those be? Could you pull those up on the screen? So
Yeah.
the suggestion is that instead of going through the community review and consent, is that we spend some time on the ones that are in progress and we get like an update.
Yeah.
I would estimate my support with this at 100%. I agree completely.
Would anybody object to starting next week's meeting here instead of here? What's cool about this is next Thursday happens to be the last Thursday in September, so that opens us up to the possibility that maybe the last open spaces of each month is a project review. That could be really nice.
Hello.
But we don't have to rush into
that?
formalizing anything yet. We're just going to try it next week and see how we feel about it. All right. And let's leave this one. If we finish this with time to spare, and as facilitator, I'm going to try to keep us focused here without going into the details of any of these. The goal is to have a high-level picture of current work and what's happening, not to hold everybody to account of every detail of what's happening right now, because that won't fit into 90 minutes. So if we can do that, maybe we'll still have time here, and then we're going to see this governance proposal still in the consent phase, at which point we might have some things to add to it. So that's really exciting. All right, so this has an action item next week. Beautiful. Newman, what do you think?
So yeah, like I hate to do this. I feel like a computer when I do it. But okay, so if we do 20 minutes and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in progress proposals. So it's like a little more than 2 minutes per. If we're just going to do it that way. I mean, some might take more, some might take less, but I feel like that's doable, and we can stretch to a little more than 20 because of I think because of the support they are. And I think it might be fun, because all of us don't know what's going on in, all these different projects. I would be really curious. And then we would hear the voices of people, that are doing it, just like the owners, like Henson, Ken, Harsha, me, Sebastian, Steve. Like that would be fun. That would be something that we could be like, hey, especially if it's not an accountability session. Now it's like no one's being called up on the carpet. It's not like what are the in Kanban Agile. It's not like demo day. It's more like, oh yeah, this is, yeah.
Well, and that's why I'm really going to try to focus on the metadata, this stuff. Does everything have an owner? Okay, that part looks good. Does everything have a date? No, it doesn't. It needs that.
Right.
And are some of these dates in the past? Yes, they are, right? So what we really want to do, this might not even be the space for like full-on status updates yet, even though we're moving towards that. But really, we just haven't even reviewed what's live right here and whether it's actually still in progress. And if it is in progress, if it's going to get done. So we start there, but yeah, let's look at how much time we have to do like a whip around and give everybody a chance to share updates. I'll look for protocols for how we can shape that.
Evan.
Nice. We need that. That's really good. Well, if it's okay, we only have a little bit of time left. I would really love to get some advice on this proposal right here. So if I can jump to the last one in the consent list. This is timely because we're moving into Q4 2024. It's time to get financial houses in order for the year. So I drafted this proposal. It's not complete, and I do need some advice on the last two sections. But just to take you through what's here, I can move through it pretty quickly. Now that we have group income, which we've never had before this year from sources like Project Catalyst and Intersect, We need to ensure that our spaces can survive for the long term by ensuring proper financial accounting. What spaces? These ones, the ones we're here to provide, okay? It would sure be heartbreaking to not be financially compliant and for that to be the reason that all of the crazy stuff we're doing here gets stalled. So what do we need? We need financial accounting for 2024. We need to update the 2024 books. We need to prepare taxes. And it would be really good for the first time to have an annual report where people can really see the Gimbalabs finances in a way that makes sense. We were founded as a Wyoming LLC in 2021, but we've never used it for anything. It's great to have a legal entity, but any income that's come in has been through Catalyst. That's been the only source of income for Gimbalabs proper, and all of it has been routed directly to individuals as independent consultant or contractors. We are moving past that point. We now have shared proposals. Different people are facilitating those, and there's a new level of scrutiny from the KYC at Catalyst. We need to make sure that we're fully compliant, that we can file accurate taxes for 2024. I didn't fill in any details yet because I was just getting the description part here, impact and benefits. This is one of my next steps. I'm going to come back to that in just a second. But really, it's kind of this, right? Balanced budget, financial report, and taxes are good to go. And I'll flesh this out before I ask for consent. Impact and benefits. We want Gimbalabs to be viable for the long term. We want to really be able to explore our options for Gimbalabs as a business entity. An LLC, that stands for Limited Liability Corporation, for anybody who hasn't heard of that. And it's really kind of like the barest bones version of a corporation, right? It really doesn't provide much other than an entity, and it certainly doesn't get us into the nonprofit realm or thinking about how we want to talk about corporate ownership if we wanted to go that way. We don't even have the options of having those conversations yet because we need a better snapshot of where we are right now. And if we do, now we can start to talk more creatively about the future. And we want this kind of full accountability. Sure, we're building on blockchain. People can inspect the ledger, but it would be really nice to kind of set a standard for how we talk in public about these finances and make sure anybody can look at them. Evaluation, we want to submit taxes on time and make sure that financial records compliant, up to date. And I'm going to add accessible. Up to date and accessible. So timeline, Q4 2024, just want to get the financial house in order. 25 Q1, file taxes. I'm asking for a budget of 25K ADA to do this. For a project lead for 5 months at a rate of $3,400 a month. I'm going to say more about that in just a moment. Hiring an accountant. And then we do have some outstanding debt. I've been servicing debt that's in the Gimbalabs bucket as an individual. I reached out to Sebastian and to Hinson about this, and we're already working on paying it down. But this, as we start to be public, you'll see that what the books currently show is that we're almost 20,000 US dollars just in the red for Gimbalabs from the last 4 years. I would like to get that back up to zero before we keep going. And so I would like to work on getting all of our financial records that we need and be compensated in terms of servicing that debt. Project lead would be Roberto Mayan Hess. He spent a lot of time here at Gimbalabs, less time lately because he's focused on, we work together on Andamio, but he's focused a lot of time over at Odin with Lucas on 45B and in several other places. I think a lot of you know him. He has been the leader of financial accounting at Andamio, has built a great relationship with an accountant, and I asked him if he would be willing to support this work by applying all of his expertise that he's built up by helping us do the same things here that he's done for Andamio. So I'm proposing for him to be the project lead and to help him out for his expertise with this amount of funding. And then I would be serving in the role of the founder who's got the messy books right now and is going to clean those up with Roberto's help and get everything in order. So that's the outline of that proposal. I know that we're wrapping in just 2 minutes, so I'm not asking for consent, but does anybody have initial thoughts about this proposal, concerns that come to mind immediately, or advice about what I can include down here regarding risks and the review and adaptation plan? Yeah. Newman, what do you think?
Did Roberto say that he would do it, is willing to do it?
He did. Yeah, I asked him, and he's actually been looking for work because he's a new dad. And so this is also serving the role of, I really want to support Roberto to not have to look for additional jobs by using the funding we have here at Gimbalabs and to fund for doing something he knows how to do.
From what I know about Roberto, this would be, I think this is what he does, and he would be incredible at it. Yeah.
He's exceptionally detail oriented, and he's the first person that came to mind when I realized how much we needed this.
Mm-hmm.
Any risks as you read through my proposal, risks or things that you would want to review at any given time? All right, I'm going to keep working on this, and I'm hopefully going to have it ready to ask for consent next week. We have 1 minute left, but really quickly, we have a little bit more. Newman, you mentioned 30K ADA in your working proposal. It is more than that. The Catalyst proposal is for 100K ADA. We've allocated, it was around 11K of that 100K to the Spaces proposal that went through last week. And it was another 10 or so to the Playground Season 4. I forget the exact numbers right here, right? So ballpark about 20% of that so far. That means we have another 80K in Catalyst Fund 12 funding to go through, okay? So as you're thinking about these numbers, look at that. And then on top of that, we still have about 40K left over from prior rounds this year, the Fund 10 work. We've been just dropping those funds as that's come in to the Treasury. And you can see that right here. Gimbalabs prototype.
Were those just those prior Fund 10 funds? Is that just general
Or
purpose?
11, yeah. Fund 11, most of this actually is from the Fund 11 proposal about testing this Treasury right here. So on top of the 80K that we still have from Fund 12, we still have this 52K right here. So we really have about 130K ADA to figure out how to allocate. And so when you see my proposal for 25K ADA, think about that in relation to approximately 130K. Okay. So I just wanted people to have that high level ballpark as we really do start putting numbers on the rest of these proposals. That's the pie right now. Our goal is to hopefully continue growing that pie, write some Fund 13 proposals. That's all coming up. Any questions about that high level view?
Love it. And I hear the bells. I'll check
Here it
out.
is.
This is really, really
Yep.
great. Thank you so
We're
much.
over time. Y'all, thanks for going through this process. Looking forward to keep refining it together. Anybody who's watching this or who's curious, we talk about code at the same time on Wednesdays. This is our governance session. But if you want to look at code together, that's Wednesdays live coding, 1430 UTC. So Josh, I know you stumbled into this meeting and you saw this. I hope it wasn't a complete waste of your time. And we definitely talk more about the dev tasks on Wednesdays.
Okay, I might pull up to the Wednesday one then. Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right, y'all. See you soon.
Appreciate it. See you.
Take care.
Ciao.